There. Hey, Summer, how's it? I only saw you now when James snuck you in inadvertently.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, dude. Sama Sambit is a digital creator and social commentator. He's known, and I've known him for a while now. I've watched him with interest for his raw, unfiltered takes on culture and on politics and on everyday life. Did you bring a cushion?
No, unfortunately, I couldn't because I had to really prepare for the traffic.
Oh, dude, it's horrible, huh? And you came from, what, the West Rand?
You see what I mean?
Oh.
But, unfortunately, I wasn't able to pass Sandhurst either because apparently that's where all the mafia bosses live. So
well, it's also, clearly you saw that mansion that was on in the news and on TV the other day.
Bruh,
with the
mansion, I saw some unreleased Lambos in there.
4 Lamborghinis of the same color.
When you see your neighbors in Sandhurst filming your cars getting raided, that's when you know those cars are very fishy.
So, Sama, you've been doing all of these videos now for how long? When did it all start?
Well, I really started about 1.5 years ago.
That's
but
what I
you could say I started gaining traction about 1 year ago. Maybe early February is when, people really started to bother clicking on my videos and just wondering what I had to say.
I think it's such a great time, and I often criticize the internet because I think, everyone's a content creator, and frankly, it's boring, and like the people who are doing just nonsense on there. They change their hairstyle and they get 5 million clicks and views.
That is so true.
So it's nonsense. But I do love it when people have a point of view because it's actually much rarer than everybody thinks. You often hear everyone has an opinion, but most people they don't tell you what their opinion is because they're terrified. You just seem to be impervious to that kind of criticism. Maybe it bugs you when you're on your own late at night. I don't know. But it is a rare thing to find people, particularly, how old are you now?
19.
Yeah, you see, particularly someone of 19 years old who isn't absolutely worried about what everyone else thinks of them all the time. And you're prepared to say a lot of stuff that most of us will agree with, and then sometimes we'll say things that nobody agrees with. And you do both with the same amount of volition.
Yeah, it all started when I stopped taking my medical supplements. No, I'm just kidding. You
could have been Sibo Kutelo.
Now, what really happens is you develop a thick skin for these things. It's with practice and with consistency, you really develop a thick skin for what other people have to say. I used to listen to some of these other guys, and they'd say the best way to not care of what others think is to just start. And when you really stop caring, that's when you really get some traction because the audience really gets to see the real you. And that's the beauty of it all. They appreciate your most authentic self. There's some of these guys who've been doing this for like 6 years, 7 years, and they still haven't gotten about 500 subscribers because they keep trying to be someone else and it's not working. Gareth Cliff is Gareth Cliff because he's not scared to be Gareth Cliff. And
so what kind of a childhood did you have? Because confidence is a rare thing. You have to be. I do agree that it's easier now to put yourself on camera because it's almost second nature to so many people, especially young people. But confidence is not second nature. Most people are, as I mentioned before, socially aware or socially obsessed to the degree that they can't actually venture an opinion. I mean, I know people who are rich, they are popular, they are well situated in life, they've got a career, they've got a family, and they are shit scared to say a third of the things, a tenth of the things that you say. So where does this confidence come from?
I think hardship really got the most of it. I'm never the type to really admit it. I was always the guy to always just keep my upbringing and stuff like that as second nature or as private because I was never the type to really put the blame on other things for my shortcomings or my gifts. But, what you realize is you get a whole lot of confidence when you start taking naps for dinner as a kid. So you ever had taken a nap for dinner, man? That's crazy.
So you didn't have everything.
No. I'd be lying if I said I did. That would have been cool, though.
Okay, but how tough was it? Because it also, I appreciate, by the way, the fact that you are a private individual and you don't feel you have to suddenly do an Oprah Winfrey show here and spill out
I don't need struggle cred, man.
Yeah, sure. But I do think that there are levels of suffering that have been elevated to the ridiculous in South Africa, and there are people who are genuinely suffering who are ignored because their story doesn't fit people's narratives. So what kind of, I mean, a sketch of a very basic scenario of what you didn't have or what you did have as a kid and how it got you to where you are.
Yeah. So just before I get to that, one thing I can tell you is someone who's really been through hardship barely ever gets to share it. Right? It's usually these guys who've been barely through anything who will come up with this great story, right? Like the whole Mandela thing, right? The whole Robben Island situation.
Sure.
But if I were to sum it up to like a few words, it would probably be barely anything in the fridge, constantly on the move, because mom and dad can't pay the rent and we didn't have any property. So, you know, luckily not changing any schools, because the school I went to was a Catholic school. It was a very small Catholic school, so you didn't really need to pay anything if you wanted to be in there. You just had to be a Catholic kid who was willing to do his catechism. And it was getting good marks. You know, we can call that indoctrination in another day, but yeah.
And clearly you were smart. I mean, clearly you are smart. And obviously that gave you something to build on.
Because when you problem, yes.
You know, but when you when you say you're a problem, like the gifted kids, the smart kids, the really, really curious kids are always the ones who also cause trouble. But it gives you something. It's like you realize, okay, I'm good at this. I could build on that, even if everything else falls apart. Was that kind of what happened with you?
Yeah, you know, I used to get a lot of heat in class because I just asked so many questions, man. Even the unnecessary ones. It would be something as simple as just a science lesson, and I'd asked why this theory was this way and why this dude didn't just wake up in the morning and decided to be that way. And the other students would get pissed off because we're trying to finish this topic because the exam is tomorrow. You know, and then this guy is asking these unnecessary questions. You know, it's unnecessary because it doesn't get you anywhere in society. That's how it all starts. Right? That's how people don't ask questions or speak out anymore later in life, because they are taught in the classroom that there's necessary questions and then there's unnecessary questions. But I was fortunate enough to have a teacher who told me there's no such thing as an unnecessary question. The very mere fact that there is a question is evidence that it's something of importance. So I was always the kid just asking about everything. And that's really what pushed me to go into the political sector. Because if life is as simple as some of these great philosophers says, then why is it so complicated for, you know, majority of our nation? And it just really went all the way from there.
It shouldn't be. And again, your first principles intuition, which you had with the science teacher when you were asking, why do we have this theory? Where does it come from? That first principles thing is unfortunately seldom a subject for people in most political analysis and discourse to ever actually interrogate. They're very happy to just accept the broad wisdom. You know, here's the good guy, here's the bad guy.
Correct, yeah.
This is how you should vote. Like the headline stuff, the stuff that you see on X that can be, you know, fitted into maybe a small paragraph at most.
Yeah.
But don't you dare dive deeper than that and ask questions about why or how did that happen or who was involved, or because for most people it's just too much information.
That was it for me, man. Like, and believe it or not, I was also supposed to be just another pawn in the game. I was supposed to also be an ANC baby who sang
What do you
Kill
mean
the
supposed
Bull.
to be?
So my upbringing, I grew up in a very, very ANC-like household.
Were your parents political?
Not at all. They definitely weren't afraid to share their political views.
Okay.
But political, I wouldn't say. You know, they were business people, and in business, you usually don't go that way.
Right.
But, you know, nonetheless, we weren't afraid to really share our political views when the time was right.
And they encouraged you to?
For sure. For sure. They always encouraged
Even
me
when
to.
you disagree?
Yeah. We debate all the time at the dinner table, you know. When we could have dinner, it was always, you know, why do you think so? there were never those really dictative parents, and I'll appreciate that forever. I was also supposed to be just another dude who went to school and got his job and voted for the ANC every 4 years and never questioned the corruption or why there were piles of trash on the other side of the road, or why there were more homeless people popping up out of nowhere, or more drug addicts as kids, and my science teacher kind of made me snap out of it. Like someone waking you up in the Matrix when Neo finally got out of that tube.
Mm-hmm.
That movie scene felt unreal, but it felt so relatable to me, because here's someone who told me, hey, you do understand not everything is as it seems, right? Your president isn't as happy clappy as he likes to portray himself as. And me being an 8th grader kid, you can imagine me being a kid going, what? Wait, so you're telling me the things he promises us on TV actually don't happen? That's crazy. And it just went on from there. And that's when you could say I really started taking the opposite direction in life. I could have also benefited from BEE. I could have also been a comrade, and you have never seen me again. I could have signed up for their program, and then they'd also have given me a Muslim light-skinned woman who nobody's ever talked to, nobody's ever interviewed her, and she's always following me because they got to get their dirty work on me. But I didn't. I didn't do any of that. And the path I took was seen as this anti-Christ path, especially in the communities I grew up in.
Sure. You're a traitor, right?
Man, yeah.
Some of the
no
people will
idea.
call you all kinds of names.
All the things. They're like, oh, look at him. He thinks he's better than all of us now because he's on GC's show, right? Or no, he sold out to the white people. Apparently that exists. They come up with all these theories.
The white people are putting money. Of course. They're putting money in your account now,
definitely.
Yeah.
It's definitely their fault you were fired. It's their fault your roads are dirty. It's also their fault your bathrooms are out of order now. So this falling out of love with the ANC, because in some ways I do think that you're an advanced and evolved version of this, maybe at a speed that's faster than most people. But a lot of people in South Africa are waking up to the fact that they've been lied to, that they've had the wool pulled over their eyes. Yeah.
And it is encouraging to me that so many people are going back to first principles, thinking for themselves, making up their own minds, not buying the narrative on everything, not just the ANC, but on all other parties too, because they all have their problems. And so much of what happens in South Africa is people just accepting other people's opinions, footsteps, and just buying it wholesale and saying that this is what I'm going to believe. Because it's easier to take it off the shelf if someone else has made it and use it rather than make it yourself.
Yeah.
But you're obviously not like that. You interrogate all these things to the degree that you do. And as I said earlier, you're okay with being unpopular about some of it.
For sure.
What kind of feedback do you get from, first of all, your friends, second of all, other political commentators and analysts, and third of all, the people whose opinion you respect? What do you get from those three groups?
Well, if a friend starts not being your friend because of your political views, were they ever a friend?
No.
You see what I mean? No. So, luckily for me, it was never like that. They were like, I didn't know you thought that way. Hey, that's pretty cool, man. You got like 10K subs yesterday.
I saw such a funny clip the other day.
Yeah.
Somebody was on a talk show.
Yeah.
And it was these two girls, and they were talking to, I think it was Megyn Kelly and someone else.
Yeah.
And this woman who was being interviewed, whose name I cannot remember, Megyn Kelly says to her, and she said she won't be your friend anymore since you said this about Donald Trump or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And, it's way worse in Hollywood than it is in South Africa.
Man.
And this girl was like, okay, well, I guess we weren't friends to start with, just to prove your point. And they both laughed about it. But obviously that other person I stood for my principles, and politics is more important than friendship. What a horrible, what a horrible life you must have if you believe politics is more important than friendship.
Yeah.
Then you are a sad, unmoored, untethered, atomized individual who there's no way to make people like that happy.
She probably the type of people that believe there's a spaceship under Antarctica too.
Or Nazis on the other side of the moon.
Politics more important than friendship. Wow.
Yeah, she actually believes that.
That's crazy.
I'm sure.
What's next? Jeff Bezos is a
All
lizard?
right, so the friends, that's an easy one for you to answer there, and you don't mess around. You get straight to the answer. The second one is other political commentators, people in the intelligentsia, academics, people who may criticize you or agree with you. Do you care about their opinion?
No, not at all. You know, when you get into YouTube and all these things, the last thing you need to care about is people's feelings. And what you notice about all these successful individuals, they barely care.
Yeah.
You know, and my mom used to say, how do you do this? You just don't care. And I used to say, well, Mom, who's your favorite celebrity when you were my age? She said, well, I always liked Mr. T.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, don't you think Mr. T had haters? She's like, for sure. Everybody's got haters. And I'm like, so think about someone as big as Mr. T. Think about the fan base he had.
I pity the fool.
Yeah, exactly. Now think about the actual fools who didn't like him.
Right.
Much bigger than the people who don't like me. Right? I'm just a dude with about 60K subscribers on YouTube. I can't even be mentioned in the same breath as that guy. And yet he didn't seem fazed by any of it.
Right.
So if someone like him didn't seem fazed by it, why should I be? And that's the thing about being successful. You can't be putting yourself in a position where you're like, oh, what if I try this business idea? My friends are going to think I'm cringe.
Right.
Well, then you might as well just stay in the same position you're in your entire life. You know, if you must have an awful lot of money if you're going to start caring about what people think. Yeah, they must be.
And the third group of people, are there people whose opinion you would like to hear and that you're interested in and that you'd like to think highly of you?
I'm always the type to hear from everyone. You know, I always love hearing someone's point of view. So it's always an honor for me to have someone think highly of me. Would I like it? For sure. But is it that stage where I'm like, no, they have to think highly of me? No, not at all. I started this knowing very well I was going to be the villain of many people's stories. I got into this knowing I was going to be the bad guy. So I was more than prepared for it. I didn't come in here not knowing what it was going to be like. The entertainment industry can be very cruel.
Yeah.
It's shown, we were raised to believe you must always do your best to be kind to everyone. But time and time again, the industry has proven to us
the opposite
by showing many examples that, you know, they can make you the villain even if you didn't want to be.
Are politicians themselves starting to take notice? I know that you've done a couple of interviews. You moderated a panel here for us the other day on the Truth Report between two Afrikaners. I mean, it's so great that you have as the objective facilitator in this conversation between Kali Kriel and Willem Petzer.
Yeah, that was
You got
hard.
Sama Sambit sitting in center stage position.
That was
I love
awesome.
it because it's
Thanks, man.
it's bound to be, for people who can't think outside of the box, it's bound to be a little bit of a mind fuck, right? They watch this and they're like, how's this going to happen?
Yeah.
So are the politicians starting to notice?
Yeah, you know, surprisingly, a lot of these big names are noticing young people are caring now. Right. So when I appeared on a show called States of the Nation, the host of that show, Mike Sham, said, what I've noticed is what you did, Sama, when you started making content, you kind of made an avalanche effect, but a good avalanche effect, because now what you've done is you've improved the confidence of other youthful people, you know, even from your community, and they started speaking out, and politics became cool again. Right? It's cool now for a young person to talk about politics, even if it makes no sense. But, you know, because you do get some of the ones that just take the shortcuts because they want the bag.
But we'll get into this in a second.
Sure.
There is a lot of apathy.
Yeah.
I mean, young people, record low turnout in the last election. Most young people in South Africa disaffected by politics. They look at it and they go, well, doesn't really affect me on a day-to-day basis. I mean, they might be right, they might be wrong. But they're more interested in other things than in politics. So do you feel like you're sometimes battling against the tide to get young people interested in this stuff? And what do you think the key is to bringing them back in?
Well, I wouldn't lie to. I'd be lying to you if I said, it didn't feel like I was battling some invisible fight, because young people are raised to think, yeah, you don't get to talk about politics until you're 55 and have experience in this job. And
Yeah,
so when I
that's true.
started doing it, they said, we can do it too. Well, let's give it a shot. So, Donald Trump the other day was streaming with the live streamer of my generation, something that was never seen before. The president, at the time, he was still campaigning, but he was streaming with Aiden Ross. And, Aiden Ross fans were shocked, and they were like, wow, Trump must really be a cool guy. Let me see what he's about. Let me try and vote. That's how you reach out to young people. And Trump saw that. Barron Trump is the one who told him to start going to all these masculine podcasts, because that's how you get a younger audience. So I started doing the same thing. If you really want people of your generation to be as interested in the stuff as you are, then you need to show them that there's nothing to be afraid of. And you definitely shouldn't be afraid of voicing your opinion, no matter who doesn't agree with it. So I also started, streaming and talking about these points of views. I'd give my cultural commentary and social commentary, then add some political commentary, and they'd be like, well, that's interesting. Well, then, Sama, what do you think of this? And through small things like that, I'd be winning the fight. You'd be getting more young people interested in a sector they were taught to not talk about because of where they're
Well, I mean, I watch a lot of your stuff because for me it also helps to summarize, because there's a lot of news, and we can't all pay attention to every part of the Madlanga Commission, for example.
Yeah.
But I know you are, and I know that you'll give me the hot takes that I can then, again, ready-made, off the shelf, I can go and use those to formulate my own opinion later. If I find that you have lied to me or whatever, and it may happen, who knows? It hasn't yet.
For sure, yeah.
If I find that
I wouldn't tell you that, though.
it would ruin the experience, and then I'd have to go and find someone else I could use for this stuff. But is it a lot of work? Is it a lot of preparation, or do you just find South Africa such a rich environment for stuff to talk about that you don't even have to stress about this stuff? You just have to make sure you're reasonably well informed. You think about it, and then you press record. How does it work?
So, there's always drama in South Africa. So that thing of someone coming to me and saying, Sama, what should I start making content? I'm like, man, there's way too much. You can make content about anything, from the poisoned kotas down the corner to the money found in Cyril's couch the other day. You could make content about anything. Now, the challenge is to be well informed about it, because you can talk about something, but remember, you're talking about it in front of 10,000 people who've never met you before. So they're counting on your legitimacy, because you might have been the first video they came across today. So now it's your responsibility to be well informed and seem opinionated if you're that type of person. What you think, and it's also your duty to ask them what they think, because at the end, you want a meaningful discussion. So that's what I've always been doing.
So let's get into a few of the things that you think, because you said you released a Cyril video this week, and you just said, this guy, this guy just doesn't care.
Yeah.
Right? He just doesn't care. He doesn't give a shit about us. He's not worried about us. He's got a different set of priorities to us. Yeah. Let's start with the president, because he's the head of the fish, and they say it rots from the head. So this guy had the hopes and dreams of many people projected onto him at the beginning. We'd come out of the Zuma era, and Jacob Zuma was the villain, and it was easy to scapegoat him and send him to Nkandla, and then, for a little jail stint. And then we could all pack our sins onto him, and then it would all be better.
Yeah.
And I think Cyril was maybe the one who believed that the most.
Yeah.
Then he comes in, and everybody's like, pray for Cyril. Do you remember that shit?
Yeah.
And then COVID comes along, and people are like, we've got to pray even harder for Cyril.
Yeah.
And he squanders all of this capital. He wastes every bit of it. And he's been a tremendous disappointment, because I almost find myself going, I'd rather have Gitlitlekisa back.
Yeah.
Do you think I'm alone?
No, not at all. I'm with you right there. This is genius. It's genius how Cyril convinced people that he's still the better guy after all this time. it's because we villainized Zuma so much in our heads. When Cyril came, he was this hero. And because he had to be this hero because we had nowhere else to turn to, we've painted this picture where everything wrong he does is just a small obstacle he just has to go through to get to the bigger goal in the end. You know, believe it or not, there's still South Africans who believe in this day and age, in 2025, that Cyril can still do it.
He's playing 4D chess.
Yeah, you see, he's
got some master plan.
And I said that the other day. Y'all think he's still just playing 4D chess, and he'd probably tell you that too.
Yeah.
And you know what? If I had Ankole Kettle and just entered office, I wouldn't care either.
No,
But
he's got so much. So there's always been the argument that, you know, politicians, in order to be great politicians, public servants, they need to have made their money before. That was always the argument. People are like, oh, no, if you're a rich person and you go into politics, you have pure motives.
Right.
Well, that's not
Of
true.
course.
That's not true at all. As we've seen from his, I don't know if it's his wife, former wife's nephew, who knows, but this relative of his who we were talking about the Lamborghinis earlier.
Oh, his nephew,
and the mansion.
Yeah.
And there are all kinds of people connected to him. And why would we believe that his connections would be any better than Jacob Zuma's connections?
Yeah. I mean, they both used to steal, but the thing with Zuma is he'd steal and then give some back. You get what I mean? Like, he'd still steal a lot, you know, and
but also you knew what you were dealing with.
You see,
he was like an honest thief.
Exactly.
He was like, I'm gonna steal your shit.
You see?
With
And
Cyril,
you knew
it's
it.
like, I would never steal your shit.
There
the
we
hands
go.
coming
And it's
around,
a lot more than the guy who actually admits
way
he steals.
worse. Yeah.
You know, a lot of these locals where I grew up, so this was around the West Rand, Rudiport area, they used to apply for social development funds to start their own things. You know, there was this one person in the neighborhood who started this institution that would supply the poor girls with sanitary pads. And it was the ANC that gave him that contract.
Right.
And shockingly, when Cyril came into office and the whole COVID thing came, it was all wiped out.
Yeah.
And now we're getting these stories of deep corruption in social development and all these assassinations happening to people like Mpho Malofe and Babita Deokoran. Funny how it all happened when Zuma
What
left
happened with
office.
this Brown Mohotsi guy? What is that story? Because he faked his own assassination?
Apparently, that's what we're getting right now. At first, I was on the guy's side because it did seem like he was cooperating with law enforcement. He was willing to rat everyone out because just like any criminal who's deep in the mafia world, you realize when you're caught, nobody's going to back you up. These guys at some point were untouchable. Cap Matala realized the moment he was in that cell, nobody was rooting for him.
Yep.
There was a stage this man thought he'd never smell a jail cell. He'd never smell that rotten sink. But now he does, and he's realized, okay, bugger, I've been paying these people with R1 million worth a month, and they still don't cover for me. I'm going to start snitching. And then the 2-hour recording comes out. The same thing with Brown Mohotsi. He's realized they're onto him, and nobody's rooting for him. There's no 20 missed calls from Becky Cele saying, hey, man, they're coming to your house tonight. You got to get out of there. No, none of that. They just came and they started questioning him. So now he's reached that stage where he's realized, okay, now I need to start facing the fish or the piranhas will come at me. And he was almost taken out for it, allegedly.
Yeah.
You know, he was just driving the other day, but according to a witness, the man pulls up in some very old Chevrolet, funny for a mafia boss, and he comes out of it, takes his gun out and starts shooting at the car. You'd think this man didn't take his medical supplements for the afternoon. And then after he shoots the car, he gets in another one and then he drives away.
And it was a rental car or something? Yeah, it's
the
all very
story
fishy.
goes even deeper.
It's so fishy.
All fishy, not an ounce of blood.
What do you? I want to get through a few of these things before we have to wrap up the show. But what do you think of Gwanazi and the fact that there are so many people who are pinning their hopes on him, that he's going to help clean up the police? And I mean, I don't think there's any Jesus in politics, right? So there's no one who's pure and decent and good. But it does seem to me like this guy is one of the better ones, and we would be well placed to put more trust in him and less in the likes of Senzo Mchunu.
Yeah,
and
for
others,
sure. Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I used to say this all the time. People don't actually think about this. I used to say, you need to sit down one day, no internet, no phone, and think about this. If Mkwanazi didn't do that viral briefing, you wouldn't have known what was going on.
And look how bad it is.
You see, if it wasn't for that viral briefing, you genuinely wouldn't have known that there was a mafia boss in Sandhurst, Senzo Mkhunu, Bekicele Matlala. Nobody even knew who that was. You wouldn't know about this rabbit hole and all these political assassinations and the DJ somebody thing if it wasn't from Mkwanazi saying, hey guys, there's drug cartels that have infiltrated our South African politics, so just go check that out real quick. We wouldn't have known that.
I hear so many good stories about him. I heard just this week about how he said to his officers in KwaZulu-Natal, he said to them, if I catch any of you taking a bribe, you're finished. If anyone offers you a bribe, you lock them in jail immediately.
Isn't that how it's supposed to be?
You would think, but in South Africa, that is the exception, not the rule.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true. We've reached that stage now where you're seen as this Moses if you just call out corruption. People see me as this Elijah when I started, talking about these political matters online. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? I didn't even give you all a solution. I just said this is happening. And everyone was like, yeah, but it's so brave of you. How did you do that?
Because you have eyes and you have a mouth.
Exactly. I remember yesterday I was talking on the Brown Mokhotsi situation and they were like, Sama must be some kind of genius. How did you know about this? I'm like, guys, as I'm making this video, I'm watching SABC, the live stream of the Matlanga Commission. You could do the same thing, if you just cared. And that's the thing about South Africans. We've developed this Messiah syndrome since Mandela. So no one wants to take accountability for their own actions anymore. Everyone just wants someone to come and do it for them. So when someone like me comes out and calls things out online, I have to run for president all of a sudden.
Yeah. Oh, that's always what happens. The minute you say something that they're not brave enough to say, oh, Sama, you've got to run for president.
You see, they want
that's
to
their
use
solution
you,
to everything. They want you to be their Jesus.
You see, they want to use you to address what they are too afraid to address.
Correct.
So they want you to take things out of their chest.
Yep.
And that's not how things are supposed to work. Right? We're supposed to work together to build a better South Africa. You can't expect the one guy to fix everything. That's what got us in this mess. I mean, you could literally argue that.
What is the most exciting part of politics in South Africa? And then we'll get into some international stuff in a short while. I have found myself falling slightly out of love with politics in South Africa because I do think so much of it is pedestrian. So much of it is about the personalities rather than the actual policies. And maybe I'm just getting old and boring. I mean, I'm happy to eventually be called old and boring. What is the exciting stuff for you?
I'm a troll, man. So when I can do something that gets people to hate me, it just feels so good. And I realize politics is the quickest way to that. If you just say Malema's a racist, you already have an entire group of black people that want your throat slit the moment they see you. So you're doing something right. But, seriously, I think the most exciting thing about all this is that mere feeling that you are contributing to the better of the nation by helping with calling out the problems and coming up with solutions. There's no feeling that can replace that. That's why entrepreneurs exist. There's a problem in society and an entrepreneur wants to find an alternative solution to that problem or just wants to better a situation. Doesn't necessarily have to be bad. So, that mere feeling of calling out a problem, talking about it and coming up with a solution, which is what, this entire thing is. If you sum it all down, then that's amazing, and collaborating with people with the same mindset, me coming on this great show that's been there for quite some time now, talking about, the same problems and coming up with solutions to better the nation.
Well, you have, I mean, I think you've just from the videos I've seen, you've come up with some really interesting solutions, takes, analysis. And I really think it's valuable when someone has a point of view, but they've also got the facts and they've thought about it a little bit. And they've really closed all the doors down the passage so that the door that you end up walking through is the one they always wanted you to walk through. It's a fun way of looking at politics, and I think do it damn well.
Thanks, man.
Internationally, do you have any strong feelings? Obviously, you're watching what's going on in Europe, in America, and Argentina, and Mexico, India, China.
Yeah.
What for you is the main area of interest?
I think this week specifically, if we really want to be recent, I really commend Trump for calling out the atrocities that have been going on in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Their genocide has been ignored for a very long time. And I thought it was absolutely unfair that, there would be other atrocities, smaller atrocities rather, in the world that would be called out. And then you had this entire group of West Africans who were being slaughtered like cattle, because of all these extremist groups that believe it is their religion to wipe these people out because they're infidels. And I really praised him for that. I'm yet to make a video on that, They truly is, a massive genocide in Nigeria. It's terrible.
Also in Sudan,
corruption.
that continues to be a massive
as well.
disaster. And it's just not, somehow it does not get the attention that Gaza gets or
not at all.
That Ukraine gets.
Nope.
There are some subjects that it seems even the people who they're trying to convince us that they're the most compassionate and empathetic people in the world.
Right.
But they don't give a shit about Nigeria or Sudan.
No, they don't.
You can't get them to even point to it on a map,
No,
let
they
alone
never did.
care.
Now, remember, Africa was always that type of continent where if there was a commercial made for us by the World Health Organization, there would always have to be
Starving
a skinny
child.
kid. There we go.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
Africa. Right. There's no war in Africa. Everybody's too hungry.
Bob Geldof going, do they know it's Christmas
Always the white young lady with the ranger hat going to feed all the hungry kids
and
over
handing
there.
out food passes.
Yeah, and then water starts coming from one well and all the kids start dancing
and
around.
the ANC guys that open
You see,
it. Yeah.
that's Africa.
Look, I'm opening the tap.
Yeah.
In fact, Cyril did that a while ago. It was very, very funny.
You don't say.
What is your take on, and obviously this week there's a lot of news around the G20 and Joburg. I don't know if the roads in your area have been improved at all, potholes filled, traffic lights repaired.
Well, I can't say we filled them with tar, but we filled them with something that can definitely get the cars to move smoothly from now on.
What do you think of Trump's comment about how South Africa shouldn't be in the Gs?
I think he said it too late. He should have said that like 3 years ago. Why are we in the Gs? We talk about being this pro-capitalist nation that wants the better for everyone. Then we have the farmer murders. We have the land expropriation. We've got the GBV. Is that what
we've got a government that is basically still in love with socialist ideas,
exactly,
which have been experimented with and have failed everywhere they've tried, but they want to do it again.
And you know what, Gareth? We just love to criticize the actual first world countries. We took Israel to the ICJ the other day. And I went to Israel recently.
Oh, yeah?
And you won't believe it. The way Israel is portrayed on mainstream media news, you'll always have a BBC journalist with a bulletproof vest talking like she's about to duck a missile, right?
Yeah,
or giving I went to Tel Aviv and I was expecting the very same thing. Took us to a nice hotel.
You didn't bump into Christiana Manpour?
No. I really wanted to bump into Greta Thunberg, but the time I arrived there, she already left.
You were a bit early, or she was late, or whatever.
And some people mistaken me for Mandla Mandela. I said, what? No. I don't come here in a boat.
A shitty boat?
Dude.
Stinking boat filled with
I thought we're the ones who hate all the illegal
armpits.
immigrants, but we come just like them.
So before we get into the politics of it, what did you think of Israel? What surprised you? What are the people like? What's the situation there? Because up to a little while ago, it was still an active war zone.
Very much so.
Despite the fact that you may not have had missiles falling on you.
Definitely. The news told us it was a war zone, and we were told to believe that it was happening everywhere. But you'll be shocked to find out there have been areas that have been untouched. There's still places that have still been kept clean. Some hostages are still taken, yes. Hamas is still on the loose and all of that's still happening. But I really respect how they've managed to stabilize things. When I was there, you could walk, or I was just walking around on the beach at 3 a.m. Don't ask why. I was walking around on the beach at 3 a.m. You saw all these, the hot young females walking around. Safely.
Sure.
All the guys that look like models playing volleyball over there. 3 a.m. Old couples walking around. You can never do that in Johannesburg.
Hell no.
And that's where we're having the G20 summit. That says a lot, And I looked at all this happening and I was like, wow, because you won't believe it. The concept they follow there is, why would you want to commit a crime against your own people, right? They have this strong sense of community. Why would you steal from your neighbor? Why would you steal from your own blood, right? Instead of hiring them. When you go to the restaurants, there's barely any unemployment in the state of Israel, because when you go to these restaurants, for example, or these shoemaking stores, the people that work there is people of my generation. You'll have the young people, and then the older generation like yourself or herself, they're the ones who really run the things. Okay. So it's like a generational thing, right? They're giving them the tools and they're really putting in the effort and making the effort to try and be their best. It's like a lovely connected situation where everyone is looking out for each other. You know, even in the Hamas attacks, you know, everyone knew someone whose house they could go to for protection. And you just see the sense of community. When I was walking the other day, there was this one Hebrew guy and he was like, hey, you're from South Africa, right?
Oh, wow.
Because I think I had something that had the South African flag on. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I know. Your country doesn't really like us, huh? I'm like, yeah, but don't worry. I'm not here to improve any of that. I'm just here to see what's going on and give my own opinion. And he's like, yeah, please enjoy. And you just be walking around and everyone would be like, hey, hi, welcome to Israel. Oh, thank you, thank you. You know, it's a very sweet sense of community. We went to all the organic farms. Remember, Gareth, these people came to a deserted land.
Yeah, you couldn't grow shit there.
And somehow managed to come up with some of the most advanced growing technology systems in the world today. That's what happens when you come together and you realize no one's coming to save you. And you realize you're doing this not only for you, but for your children as well. You know, that's what made the state of Israel such a proud state that is willing to defend themselves at any situation. And I got to see both sides of the story. I interviewed the ambassadors. I even interviewed the local Arab teacher walking down the street, you know, and what she thought and what the other side thought. And in the end, what I came up with is, despite what's happening, this is still a very safe country that cares very much for its people. So the difference between Israel and South Africa, you can see it. The roads are clean. The government actually gives a sandwich about their people. Here, not so much, right? Here, they just care if there's money to be laundered in Tembisa Hospital. But that side, their public hospitals are some of the best in the world. You'd think it's a private hospital. All the doctors so happy to see you all smiling. This side, they look exhausted because they just had 100 people admitted before you. There's just that huge difference. And that's what I really saw when I went there. You know, a bitter nation wants you to believe the enemy nation is worse than they are. South Africa and the ANC are very good at using emotional blackmail. Oh, you think we're bad? You should check out Israel.
Yeah.
Okay, I will check out Israel. We went there, and it was better than what was going on here. They are the ones with the war, but we're the ones with worse murder rates. Explain that to a kid. They're the ones with the war, but there's more people dying here. More women die in a week here than the amount of women that were killed in the Hamas attacks there. Yeah. So who's the worst nation again? Oh, is it Israel? Okay, why? Because the news says it? All right. You know, and I took down a lot of notes on it. A lot of content is yet to be made. I didn't even touch foot in Johannesburg again, and there were already people making videos about how, you see, I knew Sama Sambit was a Mossad agent. In case you didn't know it, Sama's actually a Hebrew name. Dude, it's crazy, but it's kind of fun at the same time. You know,
dude, I love what you're doing. I think it's really powerful. You are you're blazing a trail. Your content is great. If you want to get a really hot take on what's going on in the news, follow this man. He will fill your day with lots of laughter and plenty of information, and it is worth paying attention to him. Also, he is on the Truth Report, which you can find on social media. They just went over 100,000 subscribers this week, which is very, very good news. No doubt you'll be there soon as well in your own capacity.
For sure.
Which is terrific. And Sama, thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you to Sibu Kotela and to Ben and to Leanne and to Hanan and to you, most especially to you. And we will see you next Friday. Have an awesome weekend, everybody. Ciao.
It's the corrupt politician deluxe action figure with a belly to match his appetite and a voice chip that says his favorite stall tactic. Comes with a couch stuffed with cash and